Now, the definitions that we're talking about so far are, and we were just explaining how to reconstruct, are things that sometimes called reportive definitions. That is, they report the meaning, or they try to report the actual meaning of what the term is. And it's worth spending a couple minutes figuring out how to take definitions like this and figure out if they're good or if they're bad. And one thing we see is in a definition like this, both sides, the thing to be defined and the thing doing the defining, are supposed to be synonymous. They're supposed to be identical in meaning. And in evaluating this, whether in fact they're identical in meaning, what we try to do is test them by finding what we call a counterexample. Now, what would a counterexample be? It's a case where one side, let's say the thing to be defined is satisfied, but the definition excludes that thing, or side where the side where the definee ends, the thing doing the defining, is satisfied, but the definee endum isn't. And we sometimes talk about definitions being too broad or too narrow. For instance, a definition like sister is a female, we'd say that it's really too broad, because the thing doing the defining, the definee ends, female, includes things that aren't sisters. So we have the right side being satisfied but not the left. It's too broad. And going in the other direction, we could have a definition of sister being an adult female sibling. That is, so everything satisfied by the definiens, the thing doing the definition, the adult female sibling, everything that meets that criteria is a sister, but it excludes too much. It excludes children, and there are children who are sisters also. And here's kind of the operating assumption that we're going to that we play by in general in thinking logically, is that if we're considering a definition, and if we're deciding if it's good, we try to find what these kind of examples. These examples, by the way, are counterexamples. We call them counterexamples. We mentioned that before, but the idea is just one counterexample reports or to a reportive definition shows that the definition is not very good. One final point I should make is we can have certain definitions that are both too broad and too narrow. And in that case, they're bad for more than one reason. And let me just conclude by pointing out that there are a couple other ways of trying to define, trying to clear up the meaning of the terms. Things that we call ostensive and contextual definition. In an ostensive definition, the person points to cases. For example, you have a kid, you say something about, oh, there's a puppy, and he doesn't know what you're talking about, and you say, hey, look at that animal, you point one, look at another, all of those are puppies. Or imagine you're learning how to fix a car. They say, okay, here, that is a brake pad. And they point it out, that's another brake pad. And second kind of definition that's sometimes used to help clear up meaning is a contextual definition. And in that case, the definiens offers a replacement for the definiendum. An example of one such thing we've already seen. Remember, we had our shorthand symbol equals by definition. So you'd say A means B is the same thing as A equal df period B. So that's a contextual definition. And we're going to see definitions are sometimes going to be important in trying to figure out the arguments and trying to evaluate them and figure out what arguments are rationally acceptable and which are not.